Hey, I'm ZombieJohnny, and today we're going to be continuing on with my Final Fantasy reviews. Today we're going to be taking a look at the newest game in the series. This is Final Fantasy XV. Final Fantasy XV was released on November 29th, 2016, and much like Final Fantasy XII, I was there on release day to pick up a copy. The beginning of the game starts with the main characters Noctis, Prompto, Ignis, and Gladiolus pushing the Regalia, which is the car that you get throughout the game. The Regalia is stalled and the boys are pushing it down the road with a wonderful cover version of Stand By Me by Florence and the Machine. It's a very suiting song for the intro. When I first loaded the game up and the song started playing to the scenic view, it just made me feel so warm and fuzzy.
You guys even pushing?
Hard as I can.
With everything I've got.
As you stand by.
Even the opening text, which says a Final Fantasy for fans and first-timers, made me feel so good. There is no doubt that this game is gorgeous, by far one of the best-looking Final Fantasy games of all time. Every new area I made it into impressed me. There's such attention to detail. The cities in the game are very well designed, and each one of them has their own little charm. Some of the streets are winding and they have small pathways, and some streets have litter and garbage on them. They tried to put as much detail as they could, and I think that really shows in the cities. I've always really enjoyed Tetsuya Nomura's character designs, and these characters are great as well. One thing that I notice is that you always know who you have to talk to on a quest. It's never the normally dressed person. It's always the person dressed with the most elaborate costume with 19 layers and a super fancy haircut. Much like Final Fantasy XII, if you're not grinding all of the hunting missions and side quests, you're straight screwed. You have no money, and actually the characters have no concept of money because they're royalty, and you get very little gil from fighting enemies. The loot that you get will help cover costs of restocking your items, but you stand no chance buying new gear and weapons on the small feeble amounts of money that you get from just playing the game. Though this game is fairly reasonable in difficulty and I played through the game with pretty much the lowest level weapons up until the endgame areas, I felt super poor, and I really couldn't equip myself with anything. The battle system is similar to Kingdom Hearts, which is kind of fun, but after a while it gets pretty droning. Much like Kingdom Hearts, your companions just kind of do their own thing, and sometimes they heal you or help you in some way. I ended up just using my weapons and mashing circle and triangle the whole time, and really never having any issues with any of the enemies or bosses. There is a summoning system, but I have no idea how it works or when you can use the summons. Sometimes the prompt just shows up and you can use it. Other times, I went for hours without seeing a single summon prompt. Though I gotta say, when you do get a summon prompt, use it, because the animations are amazing. They introduce a new feature with the cooking system. It reminds me of the cooking system in Monster Hunter. You cook meals and boost your character's stats for a short while. Different meals give your characters different boosts. Near the end of the game, you don't really get much opportunity to use it, but it's pretty funny when Ignis shouts, "I've got it!" As I mentioned earlier, the Regalia is the car, and it's a pretty neat little feature. Instead of having to endure walking or running from one end of the map to the other, they allow you to fast travel with the Regalia. It's nice because most of the time you can just put the controller down and let the driving take care of itself. You can drive manually, but it's not really what you think it is. The car kind of just stays on this invisible track and you can't really deviate from it, so there's no real free driving, but I'm okay with that. Now, there is a story, but I couldn't tell you what it is. Most of the time I had no idea what was going on. Things were just happening and I was lost pretty much the whole game. There was a lot of nonsense in the game as well. It seems like they just threw in some parts they had written into a blender and said, "This is what you get." I won't give any spoilers away, but during one part it's obvious you're supposed to be emotional during it, and you have absolutely no connection to the character because you don't even meet the character until more than halfway through the game. I had no connection to this character's death because there was no connection to begin with. Running around the vast areas and discovering things is so much more fun and entertaining than the story. I'll let this scene play out to show you exactly what I mean by nonsense.
Something dawned on me when I was on my own. Any food you make tastes better when you use good ingredients, right? Then, if you take something already delicious like cup noodles and add in the finest, freshest ingredients, what do you get? The ultimate flavor experience. So I ask you, Noct, what's your favorite ingredient? A lot of places will serve you a hard-boiled egg with your noodles. But when it comes to cup noodles, I say if your egg ain't scrambled, you're doing it wrong. It's a subtle difference most people overlook, but not you. You get it. All that's left is to make our noodle dream a reality. First up, the ingredients.
Yeah, whatever you say.
While walking through those vast areas, I never really paid too much attention to the music. Maybe it's because there's nothing really that interesting about the music of this game. I was going through the soundtrack to pick out some of the songs for the review, and I almost didn't recognize any of them. The only one that I really recognized was the Overworld soundtrack, because it's the one song that you hear the majority of the game. It's just not a memorable soundtrack, I suppose. There are also a lot of loading screens in this game, and they do take a very long time. It's just a minor thing, but I feel it needed to be said. I felt like I was waiting on loading screens quite a bit through my playthrough of this game. I think, truthfully, this game went through development hell. I can remember seeing some articles in an old PlayStation magazine about another Final Fantasy XIII sequel. Tetsuya Nomura was directing, then I heard he quit directing. After Nomura stepped down, it was Hajime Tabata who took over as director. Overall, there are 4 different writers during the development of this game, and you can tell there was a few too many cooks in the kitchen while this game was in production. Too many cooks, too many cooks, too many cooks! Overall, the game received pretty damn good reviews, and received a favorite game of 2016 by yours truly. Apparently, various game developers and designers felt the same way and gave this game really good reviews. Though sometimes it really does feel like J-pop boy band the game. Walking around with 3 other guys, hanging out in the desert and camping, posing with one another. I was waiting a couple times for the music to kick in and the characters would break into a dance number. I'm very curious as to see where the Final Fantasy series goes from here. Is this the end? Is there going to be another numbered sequel in the series? Or will they just keep adding on to Final Fantasy 15? Who will be in charge of creating the next Final Fantasy? But alas, as I do with most of my video game reviews, I'm going to suggest that you pick this game up. It's been out long enough now that I'm sure you'll be able to find it at a lower price. Final Fantasy 15 is a wonderful addition to the Final Fantasy series, and I can't wait to see what they have in store next. Thank you so much once again for watching. I'm having such a blast doing these reviews, and I think I'm just going to keep continuing on doing these style of reviews. Like I said, I'm really enjoying them. And I want to clear up a couple of things that I said during my review. First of all, I feel like I understand the story more now that I've done the review, and I've had a chance to take a look at some of the footage and kind of understand what's going on a little bit more. But I know that they're still updating the game. I don't know if they're currently doing it, but every time I open my YouTube feed, because now I've done everything that I could with Final Fantasy 15 and looked at everything, it's always like new updates, story updates, decipher the story, what does this mean, who is Arden, blah 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 blah. I'm not sure whether they're just going to keep updating it or what's happening. At one point in time I heard that they were going to kind of cut the Kingsglaive movie, I think it was the Kingsglaive movie, into the actual game to fill out the story a little more. I'm not sure if that's happening. I don't know. I heard that they were updating more cinematic things and there was going to be more story taking place. I don't know if that's taking place at all. At this point, I do understand the story a little bit more. I get it. It's very sparse and it does still have some very weird plot holes and weird open spaces that you're like, I don't know what that means, but sure. I am still very excited to see what is coming next. I mean, are they just going to update this? Are they going to give it like a bonus content or something? I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm very excited. And I'm still going to continue on with my Final Fantasy reviews. There's a lot of games in the series, 15 numbered games. I don't think I will be taking a look at all the offshoot games because there's just too many of them, and that will take me forever to do, because doing one game, you know, it's like 30 plus hours just to get through the story, and that doesn't include just running around. Anyway, I digress. I'm going to be taking a look at another game. Then the next game that I'm going to be taking a look at is the fabled, the amazing Final Fantasy XIII. I hope you're excited, because I know I am.
The ultimate flavor experience. Ultimate flavor experience.